A bipartisan group of senators has introduced legislation to end the military draft, calling it an outdated government program that no longer serves a purpose. The bill, introduced Thursday by Senators Rand Paul, Ron Wyden, and Cynthia Lummis, would repeal the Military Selective Service Act, commonly known as the draft. First passed in 1917 to fill the ranks during World War I, the law requires all able-bodied men between the ages of 18 and 45 to register for possible military service, but it has not been used since the Vietnam War. It has been over 50 years since the draft was last used, Paul said in a statement on the bill. I've long stated that if a war is worth fighting, Congress will vote to declare it, and people will volunteer. This outdated government program no longer serves a purpose and should be eliminated permanently. The legislation comes as Congress once again debates the expansion of the draft, given the Defense Department opened all combat roles to women in 2015. Senate Democrats earlier this year added language to the annual defense authorization bill to require women to register for the draft, prompting a backlash from Republicans and social conservatives. A measure to compel women to register for potential service has continuously been stripped out of the National Defense Authorization Act year after year, most recently in 2021 and 2022. What's more, the annual cost of the program has steadily inched upwards, jumping from a 26 million budget in 2021 to a 33.4 million request for 2025. The Selective Service is a long outdated program that eats up millions of taxpayer dollars and gives us nothing in return. Wyden said in a statement, "This is a common sense bill that brings our military into the 20th century and keeps money in American wallets." I swear in the article they're saying 20th century, so okay. Defenders of women, including the draft, meanwhile, argued that the expansion makes it possible to draw on a wider range of talents should the worst happen. A commission created by the 2017 NDA to study the issue recommended as much when it released a report in 2020 that called to move a necessary and fair step, making it possible to draw on the talent of a unified nation at a time of national emergency. Women are doing a remarkable job in our force today, and if we were in a situation requiring a draft, I think we would need all able-bodied citizens 18 and above. Senate Armed Services Committee Chair Jack Reed said in June, if we go to a draft, that means we're in a serious situation. So the three senators were Rand, Wyden, and Lummis, and I only have one thing to say about them. Back when I was in high school, I wanted to join the Navy, and besides the fact that I never learned how to swim, I eventually said to myself, what's the point of volunteering for a military that gets you and other people who are considered able-bodied involved in conflicts in countries that have nothing to do with us, and you're doing this for a society that if you die, they're not going to care. If you come back, they're most certainly not going to care. And we've talked before about how almost a quarter of all homeless people in the U.S. are veterans. So being a veteran actually increases your chances of just living on the streets. But I said, you're gonna go and and I this is my point. I don't care who calls me unpatriotic. People in general are just not worth dying for. I've seen a lack of morality from my fellow man, my fellow American, and I just can't in good conscience say that it's worth possibly giving up your life so that a bunch of people can continue to not be attentive to either your memory or to those of you that serve in the military but survive. This is just not a generation that I think is worth sacrificing yourself over. That's my honest opinion. But everything Rand said is true, that if there's a conflict which is, actually worth fighting, Congress will vote to declare it, and people, again, in that patriotic fervor, will volunteer to be participants in it. And think about that. They haven't used a draft since Vietnam. So that means that the people who remember like actually being forced to join to participate or be part of the military are all in their 70s or 80s now, if not possibly even older, which is already showing you that it's kind of becoming this sort of faded memory type thing. At this point, its existence is really just a formality, right? Just oh, well, we had to draft in the 60s, so we're going to have it in the 70s, and the 80s, and the 90s, and the 2000s. But in all seriousness, there is a possibility, because we're involved, we've been involved in multiple wars just, continuously for over a decade now, right? Ever since Bush was in the White House, because after he left, Obama took us from 2 wars to 7. And what's scary is that at some point, there could be another president who says, I'm not going to even bother trying to get this war approved by Congress. Let me enact a draft, because we've already talked before about how very few people volunteer to join the military, right? They see that it's just not something that's worth their time. So you could possibly get this used again to stop, or rather to get more people forced into enlisting. And if that happens, it's not going to be a pretty picture. So I hope that this passes. And also, I just want to say this about the social conservatives that had a problem with women being forced to register, or required to register. Cry me a river. We live in an era where women are able to get every type of job that men have. We're told constantly that they want to be seen as equals and as being able to the seen the same way as a man, right? In terms of just having the same opportunities. Okay, well, if that's true, why the hell shouldn't they register for the draft as well? See, again, my position is scrap it, get rid of it, nobody has to register. But if we're going to have men registering in this supposed feminist society that thinks women can do everything just as good or just as well as men, or should have the same rights, then they should have to do it as well. They should have to register also. I'm just saying that seems to be fair to me, if we're supposedly so equal. But I've said before, when people talk about equality, they want it one way, or they want it in specific ways. Never want to go all in on the their rhetoric, their end goal rather. I really don't think this will pass though, because Congress at this point is kind of known for just chugging along, right? You'll have someone introduce something that kind of sounds like, wow, we should get rid of this, and then it won't be gotten rid of. It'll just stay there for years. But to anyone who becomes a draft dodger in the event that in one of these foreign conflicts they eventually decide we need to bring the draft back, just know that you should not feel any type of embarrassment, or just like, I've always defended Trump, for example, with the whole like bone spurs thing, right, during Vietnam, because I'll never not be sympathetic towards someone who doesn't want to possibly be put in a life-threatening situation. You're just not going to see me make fun of a person over that. I don't care who it is, what party they're from. So if we have another conflict in the future and people want to dodge the draft, you won't see me criticizing them at all. I'll be the first one telling them, hey, how's Mexico? How's Canada? It's really scary to just live in a society where, like, this is the American dream. You go and you work some job where you barely get paid anything or barely make enough to even survive, and then there's a foreign conflict that you didn't start, had no role in creating, but you need to possibly give your life so that your country can make some advancement. The whole thing is so lousy, because it's basically just a pipeline where you either continue to suffer throughout your life, right, in terms of just barely being able to survive, with the hope that eventually things will change somehow, some way, or that's abruptly cut short when you get destroyed in one of these overseas conflicts, one of our banana wars. And remember, women are not required to do any of that. So part of the banana penalty. Oh man, some laws just need to be destroyed. I would love nothing more than for them to just, if this passes, and I don't think it will, But if they're able to repeal the draft, I would love for them to just print it out on some big piece of paper and just have like make a they used to have that ice bucket challenge where people just throw the ice over them. Just have every veteran and every person that could be theoretically eligible for the draft just have a copy of it and put a video up of them online ripping it up. That would be so cathartic because it's one of the most disgusting laws in probably the last century past. Just, hey, you are male, so I hope you like going overseas and possibly dying for your country. That's over. And I again, nothing but respect for draft dodgers and people that serve. We all have reasons for doing different things, but no one is wrong for not wanting to be involved in these pointless conflicts. And all of them have been pointless really since the Second World War. So that's that.